Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Franchising Sanitation with Julie McBride of MSA Worldwide. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I'm your host, everyone. Welcome to Franchising Sanitation with
I think you're muted, Alex.
Okay, sorry for that audio issue, everyone. I'm your host, Alexandra Knezovich, the program manager for the Toilet Board Coalition, and we're really excited to be with you today with Julie. Unfortunately, Julie doesn't have video, so you'll only have myself and then our slides to go through. But Julie will be sending through some materials afterwards that we'll share with the video link, so you have that to look forward to. So without further ado, I'll kick us off with just a brief introduction first on the Toilet Board Coalition in the event that you're not familiar with who we are and what we're up to. We were founded by Unilever, Kimberly-Clark, Firmenich, and Lixil Corporation to provide business leadership on SDG 6. We run the Toilet Accelerator, which is a bespoke mentorship and support program designed to grow and scale entrepreneurs that are working in sanitation and serving low-income markets. If this is you, we would love to get to know you better. If you haven't already applied and spoken with Claire on the Toilet Board Coalition team, please do reach out to us, and we would love to get to know a little bit more about you and your business. This today is a part of our Toilet Accelerator Fast Forward program, which was designed to activate the Business of Sanitation network and to provide more opportunities for businesses large and small to share expertise and make connections. So today we're doing that by talking with Julie McBride. You may, if you attended our summit last November in Mumbai, you may have met her in person there and attended her franchising workshop. It was out of incredible demand for her and for from the entrepreneurs in this program to learn more about franchising that we've brought her back, and we're hoping to bring her back many times in the future. Julie, perhaps you want to start off with just a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. So I've been working in the field of social franchising for about 25 years. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I started off as doing healthcare franchising with a nonprofit called PSI in Pakistan, and continued with them for several years to expand use of the franchise model in healthcare, and since then have moved on to working with a franchise consulting firm, helping other social businesses and other sectors or industries and geographies to expand through the franchise model.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So without further ado, we'll proceed into our interview context. So Julie, perhaps you can start off by answering the question, what distinguishes franchise models from other models?
Yeah, so, you know, as you know, franchising is one of many methods used to expand a business. That's really all it is. It's just a method used to expand a business. Other commonly used expansion methods include just creating a chain of company-owned businesses, or forming joint ventures, partnerships, and affiliations, or simply licensing a brand like Donald Trump does with his business empire. That's a licensing model where he's just licensing his brand to other business owners. What distinguishes franchising from other expansion models really is its ability to achieve geometric scale while also maintaining standards and generating economies of scale. And the reason it can do this is because the original concept owner or business owner can get access can expand more rapidly because they can get access to both human and financial capital that they need to expand without diluting their own equity. Also because they can achieve faster market penetration and increase brand awareness this way, because they're not actually owning and operating all of these businesses themselves. That quick market penetration really facilitates the growth of the business and the brand awareness and equity that's needed to further expand. It's also because it enables the business owner to adapt more quickly to local markets because of the franchisee's local market expertise and local contacts that a business owner might not necessarily have. And another reason is because in this model, the business owner is able to rely on the franchisee's drive and vested interest in success to achieve performance standards versus, for example, a salaried employee running one of your businesses in another location. And then, finally, it's because you're able to achieve much greater efficiency in how you use your resources through a franchise model. The larger the network grows, the lower the unit cost for operating the franchise. So it's unique in that way. And so these are just a few of the reasons that the model is so widely used in the commercial sector, where it's used to expand somewhere around 200 different businesses in around 200 different industries around the globe. And it's actually, the model's estimated to be a creator of somewhere around 9 million jobs.
Wow.
In direct jobs just in the US alone. So it's a huge contributor to the global economy because of its ability to expand so efficiently and rapidly versus other expansion models.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep going. So then, I mean, the franchise model sounds incredible and quite powerful, I think, as a tool. What do you feel makes the franchise model particularly suitable to sanitation?
So I myself have never actually designed a franchise system for a sanitation business, but based on what I've learned about this sector through my work with you guys, my impression is that the model is well suited to expanding global access to sanitation services for at least a few reasons. And one, I think the first of which is that there seems to be at least a few successful and replicable business models in the sector out there already. Yeah. And and that's one of the first, that's the first criteria to having a successful franchise is you've got to have a successful business model that's right. Replicable. And there certainly a sufficient consumer demand for sanitation services out there that warrant the expansion of sanitation businesses. And then, a couple more reasons would be that that I think it's suitable is that there's also seems to be plenty of capital available in the form of either grant, equity, or debt to cover the costs involved in developing a good quality franchise system, and also in helping franchisees cover their startup costs. I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's the impression that I am getting from just my involvement with you guys. And then finally, I think there's evidence that there's a sufficient supply of qualified franchisee prospects out there, which that's one of the beauties of this model is that it's really helping to unlock, local human capital. And there obviously are plenty of local entrepreneurs out there who are willing and able to operate a sanitation business as long as it's profitable for them. So, I mean, those are just a few reasons I think that there's an opportunity to use this model more broadly in this sector in particular.
Brilliant. So then the next question must be, so how does one go about franchising a business? Where do we start?
Well, the typical franchisor begins as a small locally owned business that has achieved some success in his or own community. And then, that success leads them to invest in a second or third business, which also then, proves to be successful and profitable. Mm-hmm. And so, at that point, the business owner decides that they want to, further expand in the growth of their business. And if they decide that they want to use a franchise model to expand, they'll invest in, they'll spend the next few months investing in resources like working with lawyers and consultants, accountants, bankers, web designers, and other professionals to actually design and develop a franchise system, which is essentially the franchise system is essentially the business of replicating your business. So they'll invest in developing a whole second business, really. And then once that system is ready, the emerging franchisor, that's the sort of the operator of the business that comes out of the system, the franchise system, will generally spend, months investing in advertising and marketing to recruit their first franchisee. And then, if they're lucky, 3 or 4 months after they start offering franchises, their first franchise agreement will be signed. And then if everything goes right, another 9 months will probably pass before the first franchisee gets their location open and begins to pay the franchisor fees or royalties of any kind. So, it takes some time and money up front. You need to have patient capital and realistic expectations up front. Can't be underestimated at that point. And then, both of those things I think have really been missing in this social franchising space. And that's in my opinion, that's why there's so many, failed experiments, particularly in the healthcare space, because the time and money needed to develop a high functioning system has not really been adequate.
Okay. So then how can I tell if franchising, before kind of launching into everything you've just described in terms of lawyers and accountants and all of that, just, building the franchising business, what would be some signs that I could look for? How can I tell that franchising would be right for my business?
Well, first of all, franchising, my career, I'm obsessed with franchising, and my career revolves around using the franchise model in particular.
And that's why we're talking to you.
Yeah. But franchising is not necessarily the right expansion model for all businesses or business owners. Mm-hmm. And I want that to be clear. So to determine if it is the right model for you, you first need to make sure that that your business concept is replicable, and that means that the concept the concept you're thinking about franchising is really based on a successfully operating business. You don't want to think about franchising something until you have really nailed the business that you're thinking about scaling. So nail it before you scale it.
Right.
So you want to make sure. Yeah, that's one way to remember. Nail it, then scale it. And that's been really missing in the social franchising space, in large part because of the pressure to hurry up and scale, and in large part because of the type of capital that the social sector attracts. So that's the first thing. Make sure that the concept is replicable, and you do that by making sure that the concept actually works well, producing results you're after, both financial and social. And then after that, going back to the story I was telling about how a typical franchise really grows or gets started, then you want to try to replicate that through, company-owned locations in a few different places to make sure that it's not just a fluke in the market. Right. Original concept. So try to operate a couple of other businesses in a couple of other markets, and that way you kind of refine the systems to make sure that once you do try to go to scale, it's going to be a lot easier.
Right.
And thirdly, you want to make sure that that there's sufficient consumer demand for the products and services that are being offered through the business to warrant expansion. Because, franchising is a great way to scale massively. But if what you're selling or offering through your franchise is not in demand, then it's not going to work.
Right.
So then, once you've determined that your business is in fact replicable, you want to see if franchising is actually the right method of expansion. And my company, the company I work with, MSA Worldwide, will work with, when it starts working with the client, will perform what's called a franchise readiness test.
Okay.
And we don't proceed with system design work until certain criteria are met that indicate you're actually ready to start franchising. So among other things, these criteria include, one, that there's a sufficient supply of qualified potential franchisees out there, and that there's the business management of the business to become the franchisor is really committed to investing in resources needed to operate the franchise business. 3, the business to be franchised has been systematized. And 4, again, like I could spend all day just talking about these 5 points, but since we don't have all day, I'll just quickly go through them. And then 4,
the outline is perfect.
The systems. So you want to make sure that the business that you're going to be replicating has been systematized as much as possible so that it's easier to replicate while maintaining standards. And then you want to make sure that the systems are transferable to franchisees within a reasonable amount of effort and time. So, again, like you don't see many French restaurants or any French restaurants being franchised because they're just too complex. A French chef has to spend many years in culinary school. You can't just quickly, in a reasonable amount of time, teach somebody how to prepare, French food, whereas it doesn't take that much time to help somebody learn how to grill a hamburger or whatever. That's why you see so many more sort of simple. The simpler the concept, the more replicable the concept.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and then that's something that. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I can see that definitely. Sanitation, thinking about, some of the business models that we see in sanitation that I know a lot of these entrepreneurs are working on and building, we see lots of opportunity for franchising, and clearly the demand is there. So that's really helpful. Did you have another point for that one before?
Yeah, probably the most important point, and one that's the most overlooked in the social sector, is that, it's your business is only franchisable if the economics of the business support expansion. And that means the unit economics of the business that you're franchising have to be healthy. You're not going to be able to sell somebody a business that they're not going to make money from. And,
of course.
And that's what makes your business replicable and franchisable, is that people want to own and operate it because they're going to be able to make a decent living from it. It's not just a hobby or a part-time job. So when we're working with clients, we make sure that you meet those conditions before we move ahead with designing your system. If you don't and you still want to franchise, we'll work with you. We do a gap analysis, and we'll work with you to get those criteria in place. And then once you pass that sort of readiness test, then we can move into developing a franchise system.
Perfect. Well, that beautifully segues into our final question, just before we wrap up, which is, if we've gone through that process, if we're looking at our business model and it is profitable, it is replicable, we've systemized it in that way, or we think that it can be, what are those first steps to developing the system besides emailing you? What are some of the things that entrepreneurs could begin looking at or thinking about, or other resources that are available to them that they could approach as they begin that journey?
Yeah, it's a good and important question. I mean, first of all, you're ready when you tick those boxes that I just mentioned, but also the business owner has to be willing to invest considerable time, effort, and money up front to develop a quality franchise system. And to do that requires, first of all, learning as much as you can about franchising. So you don't go into it blindly, because there are risks involved, and especially if you don't really go through a process that others have gone through. There's no need to reinvent wheels here or repeat mistakes, because all of those mistakes and wheels are documented. And so, there's lots of literature out there on franchising. One, I can recommend a book that my firm actually just published through the Dummies series, called Franchise Management for Dummies. And I'm happy to send anybody a copy of that book for free if they want. It's a good resource that can help you figure out what the right questions you need to ask are, and get some answers to those questions. So, and then you need to hire experts in the field of franchising to help you. And that includes, experts with franchise system design. So franchise system design consultants, franchise lawyers, and again, not just any lawyer, but lawyers that know something about franchise law.
Franchising, right? Yeah.
You're following regulation in your local countries. And, accountants and marketing and advertising professionals and franchise tactical and execution consultants to help you develop your franchise manuals and your franchise sales strategy, et cetera. I would say the most important thing is to to educate yourself, read this book or other books like it. There's plenty of literature out there. You can go to my website my company's website at MSAworldwide.com, and there's tons of literature up there that can get you started. And then, get the help that you need to do this right. Don't try to do it alone. It's worth investing in quality, advisors up front to increase your chance of succeeding. Spend a little bit more up front to do it right.
Right, of course. Okay. Well, fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for joining us.
Well, okay. Sure.
Is there any last thought that you'd like to share that perhaps I cut you off from?
Some people ask me a lot about what all it entails and what sort of investment is required. In the beginning, how much time and how much money should they be thinking about before diving into this? And, I just want to be clear that it can take, again, having realistic expectations is super important about how much it's going to cost and how much time it's going to take. And, when you're working with donors, sometimes we can, as I've worked for NGOs, and I know that we can feel pressured to make promises that we can't necessarily realize in order to get the funding. And I think it's really, that just is going to lead to failure if you do that. I think it's really important to, budget about 6 months of your time to actually develop a system and a marketing campaign, and then another 3 to 4 months to get your first franchise agreement signed, and then another probably 9 months before, you can really have your first franchisee up and running and paying a franchise fee. So, plan with plenty of time up front to design your and execute your system. And then, costs vary considerably, but you should be prepared to spend between, $100,000 to $200,000 before you launch your first franchisee. And while, it may sound like a long time, a lot of money to social entrepreneurs, they should consider that, except for the time spent in developing and completing the initial franchise process, the time spent is really identical to opening a new company on location. And the real difference here is that during that time, you may have multiple locations under development, and you have not expended nearly the amount of time, you will not have expended nearly the amount of human or financial capital you would have to open a similar number of company-owned locations. So in the end, this will be my final comment, and then we can open it up for questions. But in the end, after a fairly heavy upfront investment, you're in a position to begin To begin really to enjoy being a franchisor, you will have attracted qualified franchisees that are opening up branded locations and using your operating system appropriately. And, hopefully they're beginning to make a good living using your brand and your systems and your support. And then are able to pay you franchise fees and sending you royalty payments. And then those fees over time will help you pay off your cost of becoming a franchisor. And, from here on out, further investment and growth is made by franchisees, not the franchisor. So, that's it. You have your upfront costs, and then to further expand, franchisees are the ones putting up the capital. And, in the end, your initial investment pays off in a multitude of ways, not the least of which is impacting the quality of life of not only local entrepreneurs who are looking for ways to pull themselves out of poverty, but also the customers that are able to, enjoy a much better quality of life because of the products and services that you're offering through franchises. So I'll stop with that.
Okay.
Obviously, I believe there's huge potential for this model to do good things.
Excellent. Well, if anyone has a quick question for Julie, you can put it in the chat box. But actually, what might be better for us, given our timing for today, because we do need to wrap up, is if you do have further questions for Julie, feel free to email us at the email address on the screen, fastforward@toiletboard.org, and we'll get that to Julie. And then also what we've already spoken about with Julie, because it was quite clear as we were planning this session, that there's a lot more that we could talk about around franchising, how to prepare yourself, and what to do once you're there. So we're going to bring Julie back this fall, and we're actually hoping to bring some entrepreneurs back with her so that they can talk about how they've been growing their business and preparing to franchise and that sort of thing. So more to come. Please do email us if you have any further questions from Julie. As we mentioned beforehand, we'll email out the link to this recorded video and some visual resources as well. Great. Well, thank you, Julie, so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Bye.